everybody? We good to go? All right, so we'll start again. Good morning, I'm Marty McNair from the Jordan McNair Foundation. Anybody even familiar with the Jordan McNair Foundation? All right, got it. So most of us usually can remember, if you do remember the young man that passed the University of Maryland 2018, had a heat stroke on the field? That was my son. So I'm gonna tell you, the call that changed my life forever was, basically I got a call on June 29th, 2018, it was basically like, Mr. McNair, this is Officer Wells from the University of Maryland campus police officer. I'm a university campus police officer. There's been an incident on the field. So basically, it was an incident on the field. He said Jordan had a seizure. So he was a guy that was 6'5", 300 pounds, a size 16 shoe, that literally hadn't been in the hospital from the day, except the day he was born, from the time he was born. That was Tuesday. Friday morning, we were at the University of Maryland shock trauma unit, and basically the conversation went, Mom and Dad, Jordan's liver is 85% necrosis, and if we don't make the decision to get an emergency liver transplant right now, he'll be dead within 12 hours. What happened? So what happened was, Jordan had a heat stroke on the football field. The very first day of conditioning practice, they were running gases, they were pretty much doing too much too quick, and he started to have a heat stroke, and basically nobody identified the signs and symptoms of him having a heat-related injury. They got my son to the ER an hour and 36 minutes later that day with a core body temperature of 106 degrees. See, because anybody know what a heat-related injury is? Heat exhaustion, heat stroke, anybody? Other than one person. Step back, bro. Catch me from back there. So basically, what happens is when your core body temperature goes above 104 degrees, that's the equivalent of you being in a microwave oven. And what happens when you put food in the microwave oven? Somebody tell me. You do what? We do it to what? Heat it up, we do it to cook it, right? So you literally have a 20 to 30 minute window to cool that core body temperature down. And if you don't cool that core body temperature down, the damage is irreparable. I didn't know at this time, while my son was fighting for his life in the hospital, I used to ask myself when I would walk down this long hallway every day, wondering, what did I miss? See, what did I miss at the recruiting table? Because when the coaches were sitting at our kitchen table from the University of Maryland, I asked two questions. I basically asked, can he get some playing time? Number one, and I asked something around what's your support around mental health and substance abuse, because I owned a facility in the city at that time. That was it. So now, as I'm steady asking myself while my son's fighting for his life, what did I miss? What didn't I prepare him? I always taught him how to be a leader, never a follower, always stand up for himself amongst his peers, always be ready to fight amongst his peers, right? However, I never taught Jordan two major things, and especially at this particular age. I never taught him to advocate for himself if he felt uncomfortable, right? I never tell him to speak up for himself if he sees something happening to one of his teammates that he's uncomfortable with, right? I never told him to listen to his body. See, because now, the thing is, we're planting seeds today because when your body tells you to stop, you should stop. But see, what we teach kids is, I always told Jordan to be what? Coachable. And what does coachable mean? If you coach say run through that brick wall, you run through that brick wall. See, because we're out in the stage right now where, and then I look back at it, and all of these combines and camps and clinics that I would take them to, just like the one you all at today, I guarantee you, if we never pulled you all in here, I guarantee you, all of you all just would have sat in the stands and like, oh, there go my baby, he out there running this, he running that. But in the event that your baby or something went down, would anybody in the room know what to do? I'm sorry, show of hands. Would anybody in the room know what to do? If you didn't know what to do, raise your hand. Thank you. So when we came along, these were all things I was asking myself. So what I want you to do for all the parents that didn't think this was important enough to come out, just go ahead and share what you learned with them. Because see, what we do is, what we say all the time, because all you got young kids. Anybody got older kids out? Show of hands, older kids. Got it. Older, 12, 13. Got it. 14. Teach them now to advocate for themselves. Because that was one of the main things that I missed while my son was coming up. And here was my son, he was a highly recruited football player, could have literally went anywhere. As a junior, we had over 500 pieces of mail in the mail. He had an offer from every school across the country. When I tell you we had options, a 6'5", 300 pounds, a size 16 shoe, you got options. And you athletic too, you got options. You're a lineman's lineman. I get real emotional this time of the year. Anybody know why? Dads?
It's the draft.
It's the draft. My son should have been in the draft last week. Very emotional this time of the year. I got a young man that's a part of our network by the name of Ryan Swoboda. He was 6'10". He went down in 2017 at UVA. He was in a coma for 2 weeks. He survived. He and I talked on the phone the other day, and I'm like, where'd you go, bro? He was like, I went low, but I got to the Detroit Lions. And I'm steady asking him, and I'm talking to him vicariously. Well, how much was your bonus? Because that's how I get through this time of the year, from Jordan's friends and young kids young people that we create relationships with that may have had this opportunity to go to the next level. Because my son didn't. And see, this is before while Jordan was fighting his life, I had no idea of the 30-plus kids that had died at the NCAA level. Even more at the AAU level, even more at the high school level. See, because the main things, and we gave you all a really, I'm a takeaway guy, so we gave you guys a really, really good questionnaire, right? And the questionnaire, basically, these are the questions you should be asking anybody before you let your child walk on the field or play for anybody. Now, what we used to say was, if they can't answer these questions, don't let them play. However, now we're saying if they can't answer these questions, refer them to the Jordan McNair Foundation. Because we'll get them, we'll educate them. And that's basically a lot of times we just don't know what we just don't know. But just think about that. Now, God forbid we would want anything to happen to a kid, but I'm going to tell you, last year we did Jamil McClain's clinic, or the 53 Families Clinic at Douglas High School last year, and it was a hot day. We had about 20 kids come under the tent in the first 15 minutes. Because we just sending them out there. We know they ain't drinking no water. We know they probably was up all night, even the little kids, because they're injury prone. And we got to tell y'all, we got to plant the seeds of self-advocacy right now. Rest assured, ain't nobody got a superstar in the room, I guarantee you. At 6'5", now here's a kid that was 6'5", probably by the time he was 14, all I ever did was just keep him active. I kept him involved. It's basketball, football, whatever it was. And y'all know when he got it? He got it when he was 15 years old. If it was up to me, he would have got it at 10. We would have had offers at 10 years old. And I tell people this all the time, ain't nobody going from the 5th grade to college. Ain't nobody going from the 9th grade to college. Ain't nobody going from the 10th grade to college. It's just not. If you can't qualify, it's a whole bunch of stuff in the mix before we get there. So the main thing is this, family, what I like to emphasize to everybody, especially in the handout. Anybody know what an emergency action plan is? Show of hands. Got it. Okay, anybody don't know what an emergency action plan is? Show of hands. Got it. How many of you have participated in a fire drill? Show of hands. That's an emergency action. You left the building or whatever the case may be, they took you outside to the designated area. We all stood out there, most of us huffing and puffing, because you probably was looking at Facebook or something on your computer. Most ladies, you're taking a desk selfie, and they done interrupted your time with this, right? But again, keep in mind the potential every time you walk out on the field, the potential for a fire can happen. Every single time you walk on the field. That's when an emergency action plan saves your child's life. That's when it can potentially save your child's life. So we gave you a template for an emergency action plan. Again, ask these questions if your child is playing for an organization, or if they're playing with a current organization and they don't have something set up, just refer them to us. That's all. We'll help them out. See, before we'd be like, nah, don't let them play. But at the end of the day, we got to educate everybody. Keep this in mind, folks. Our community is our superpower. And I'll emphasize that community is our superpower, literally. All this information, guess what? We take it, we pass it along. Look, we got 4 laws passed in the state of Maryland since George passed. One at the Baltimore City level, 3 at the state level. Folks probably don't even know about it because, again, we need to let people know this law protects your child, your child, your child, and your child. At all levels, from the AAU level up to the collegiate level. So again, these are things that we really need to focus on when it comes to the community. I'm not going to keep you long, however, but I want everybody, is anybody not comfortable with this handout we just gave you regarding the question? Anybody? Because see, the thing is, now this is what I want everybody to do. I want you to look at the person next to you and ask the first question. I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3.
I ain't got that one.
We don't have that.
Handout 6. See, because this is when we learn how to start asking questions at, right here. Everybody got to take the 6 question takeaway? All right, got it. Hold your hand if you got it. If you got it. If you don't have it, raise your hand. Y'all got it? Got it. All right. We need somebody, my man needs one right here. We we're gonna make sure we get it, because we're gonna start learning how to ask these questions now. Because see, what happens is this, family. See, what we start doing as parents, we get conditioned. Because see, we think that if we ask the coach a question, he gonna cut our kids' playing time. Mom a nuisance. You know, I ain't gonna say no names, but I just heard one of the moms in here give a war cry. You ain't gonna be giving that war cry in college. Maybe you. But again, as parents, we fall into that grasp of what the parents do, parents parent. What the coaches do, coaches coach. That ain't it. Because at the end of the day, see, if something happened right now, prior to this training, if something happened to your kid, it's gonna be the coach's fault. Coaching them didn't do this, or they didn't do this, or they weren't this. But can you really blame coaching them if you weren't prepared, or you didn't ask the right questions? We can't put all the onus on them when we educate. Keep this in mind. The more educated we are, the safer all of our kids will be. The more educated that we are, the safer all of our kids will be. So everybody got this, right? Everybody got their question in. So look to the person to the right or the left of you, and we're going to start asking these questions now, because I don't want people just to go home and say, oh man, I just got this, and you don't look at it, and you never ask the question, or you're afraid to ask the question. This is a safe space right here. And you can't put a price or a value on your child's life or your child's safety. I'm telling you, you don't want to hear that call that I got. And there's so many people across the nation that we never even hear where these deaths happen on a consistent basis. They're just not in our geographic priority. So on 3, 1, 2, 3, ask the person next to you the question. First question. 1, 2, 3.
Does the team have and frequently practice venue specific emergency action plan, the medical emergency fire drill?
All right. You all got that? I'm just waiting on our interpreter over there to ask the question.
Got it.
Good? I'm waiting on you. No, take your time. I know. That'll work. Okay. All right. So, on 3, we're going to ask the second question. Matter of fact, you know what? What I'm going to do is, I'm going to call somebody up. So, come on up here, young lady. Yes. Community is our superpower. So, question number 2. You want to ask me the question? I'm coach. Yes, ma'am.
So, do coaches know the signs and the symptoms of heat exhaustion or care-related injuries?
What's that?
What do you mean, what's that?
See my point? That's a realistic question.
Yeah, you're supposed to know that.
So when you look at heat-related injuries, they always start with, you got 2 types of heat-related injuries. It starts with heat exhaustion, and then if you miss all the signs, it goes to heat stroke, unfortunately in our case, right? Heat exhaustion always starts with cramps. Cramps is the first indicator. I'm cramping. I feel cramps. If I'm a little lightheaded, if I'm nauseated, that's heat related. Don't ignore these signs, moms and dads. That's where it starts at. When you get to a point where everybody, you're more than welcome to come up and take a picture of the retractable head. But again, heat strokes ain't a bad thing. Or heat-related injuries, heat strokes are bad. However, heat-related injuries, heat exhaustion, all that's just a part of being an athlete. You do too much too quick, you could just be at the top of your peak, you could be peak performance, and you're in the zone, and you just push it too much. And you basically have a heat-related injury, when you gotta cool down. But keep this in mind, these things are preventable, they aren't bad things, but when they're mismanaged and the signs and symptoms are ignored, that's when they get to the danger zone. And you got a 20 to 30 minute window to cool a person down. How many of us old enough to remember to stop, drop, and roll at the event of a fire? Show of hands. Got it. So what we say in heat-related injury space, cool first, transport second. Regardless of what it is. Put somebody in cold water, put an ice towel on them, put a bag of ice on them. And guess what? The main thing that I would emphasize to all of you, look, we in peak season. We lucked up and got a wet day today, but you already saw how warm it was yesterday. It doesn't have to be a 100-degree day for these things to happen. When Jordan went down, guess what? It was 85 degrees. It just was a humid day. We deal with humidity up here. So what I would suggest to everybody is, next time you take your kids to practice or game, just stop and buy a bag of ice. And if your organization doesn't have a cooler or towels, parents, bring it for them. Have a team mom or somebody. How many of y'all team moms? Got it. Okay, cool. Team mom, bring some ice, or bring some coolers, get some towels. Because the worst thing that can happen with ice, it'll melt. Best thing, it might save a life. Even if you got to put, a lot of times we're resourceful. So a lot of times if you don't have an ice pack, just put some bags of ice, some whole bags, some sandwich bags of ice together the night before. And when you put them behind the neck, right? If it gets worse, you can put them under the armpits, right? You can put them armpits, neck. Unfortunately, hopefully we won't have to go to the groin. But the main thing is we want to catch these signs and symptoms early. Always remember, cramps is the very first indicator of something going on. If you get beyond a heat stroke, if you get beyond heat exhaustion and heat stroke, the number one sign or telltale sign is what we call central nervous dysfunction. And basically that's just somebody acting erratic, they're not their normal selves. We know our kids, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, teach our kids these things. We can come in, teach the student athletes these things, because usually what happens when they get a little older or you get bigger teams, you usually have a 10-to-1 ratio. You might have, say you got a college team, you may have 10 coaches to 100 kids. So when you start getting to those high school levels and things like that, so again, another athlete, a teammate may identify some signs and say, Coach, my man don't look right, or something to that effect, and basically kind of go from there. So everybody needs to know about these things. But keep in mind, family, team moms, dads, or whatever, even if you ain't a team mom, just buy that 5, 6, 7 pound bag of ice. I guarantee you ain't doing nothing wrong. And some days, I guarantee you'll be happy that you did purchase it, especially on these warm days. Towels, ice, and water, those things will make a difference. If you don't have a cold water tub or something like that, those are the main things right there. Team mom, or just, you know what, moms, just put a couple bags of ice together. Some sandwich bags of ice. You know, hey, they may come off the field, just ice it down. Start icing them down, the back of the necks, foreheads, under the arms, everything. Because those are more your central points right there. But heat exhaustion, cramps, nausea, lightheadedness, maybe excessive sweating, maybe clammy skin. But again, those are the signs of heat exhaustion. When you cross that threshold to get to heat stroke, central nervous dysfunction. A kid will look like they're drunk, or they're acting like they're drunk. They just kind of out of it, they loopy. More than likely, that's it. Because your main 4 things when it comes to injuries that kill our young people, especially during practices, a lot of these injuries always happen in practice. They rarely happen during games unless it's a broken bone or concussion or something like that. Heat stroke, cardiac arrest, what we call the 4 H's, head, heart, heat, and hemoglobin, right? And basically a lot of times, anybody in the room got a student athlete or a child that has sickle cell? Okay, cool. That's one of the main things. It presents like a heat stroke, but it's something clearly different when that sickling kicks in. A lot of times y'all saw what happened with DeMar Hamlin. That's what the whole world saw. Right, that's a reality. The main thing is, when I came in the building to even get this space to see where we were, all I kept looking for, where's the AD machine? The AD machine is literally right there down the hallway. But really, how long did it take you to walk around here from the field? Something went down out on the field, we're short. We literally, you got to access that AD machine in 3 to 5 minutes. Is it 2 to 3? Is it 3 to 5? What is it?
It's 3 in, 3 out. So yeah, 3 to 5.
Yes, ma'am. You a nurse? No. Okay.
No, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Since we missed the signs for the heat exhaustion.
Yes, ma'am.
We crossed into the heat stroke stage. And you notice the kid being lethargic.
Sure.
What do you do? Is there anything you can do to, I guess, help to...
Yeah. The cool down process, you got a 20 to 30 minute window to cool them down. Okay. So if your organization doesn't have a cold water tub, call the Jordan McNair Foundation. We created an inflatable tub that you can take everywhere with you. But you always got, so everywhere you should go, especially at practice, if they don't, keep this in mind, family. I don't want to deter anybody to say, hey, I'm leaving the program. The more educated we are, the safer that our student athletes are. So the main thing is this. A lot of times we can pay all this money for sneakers and memberships and registration and uniforms and all that type of stuff. Same way we can sit here and we can buy safety equipment as well. I'm sure everybody in the room can put up 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 to buy a mobile AED machine for their program. If you need it, cool. If you need it, it's kind of like insurance. I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So what you do in that situation is different modalities that you can use. The cold water tub, cold towels, right? Even if you don't have a cold water tub, as long as you got ice and water, you can save a life. Right, you can save a life, for sure. Any other questions? I know she ain't the only one in here. All right, question number 3. Did I cover everything around safety equipment or question number 2? Any questions? Question number 3. I'm gonna let you ask question number 3 from your seat.
Does the team have a cold water tub, AED machine, and first aid tent equipment on hand at practices and games within 3 minutes of each? Does the team know what the equipment looks like?
Okay, cool. So what I'm gonna do is, parents, would y'all know what the equipment look like? We just talked about a cold water tub. We just talked about an AED machine. So anybody show of hands know what an AED machine is? Anybody don't know what an AED machine is? Okay, so for those of us that didn't raise our hands, an AED is an automatic external defibrillator. So even if you just detour it, it's literally right down the hallway in that white box. We see them all the time, probably in buildings, we just don't pay attention to them. But see, what's scary is when we go into high schools, we went to high school in Philadelphia within the last couple months, and it might have been about 200 to 300 athletes, right? And the thing is, I asked, where's the AED machine? One kid out of 300 knew what an AED machine is. Because a lot of times what happens is we, as advocates, we talk over student athletes' heads versus talking to student athletes. And when you start to educate student athletes, here I go with the education piece. Miss Student Athlete, do you know what the first aid tent? Do you know what it's for? Do you know what the safety equipment looks like? Do you know what an AED machine is? The more that they know, the more that they let everybody else know. It's all about education, family. And unfortunately, folks don't know what they don't know, but when we do know, it makes a big difference. So nobody can walk out of here today and say, damn, I didn't know. Yeah, you did, because you asked these questions. Question number 4. Yes, ma'am. No, you. Come on, I'll translate over there.
Plan to see your self-advocacy in your student athletes while they are young. Let them know how and when to speak up for themselves when they feel bad physically and mentally.
Got it. I talked about that earlier, but let's be very specific. Plant these seeds, family. If their body tells them to stop, stop. See, I think what happens with young people is this. Having a student athlete of my own that was a career athlete, I think they think that when they go to college, if it don't work, they're going to go live with the coach. I don't want anybody in this room to be in my position. Where, guess what? Only thing my son was guilty of was being a good teammate. He didn't want to let his teammates down. Even in the midst of him going through some challenges, they've already bought and drank that Kool-Aid of saying, you know what, I can finish this out. I'm tough, I can tough it out. And dads, this is what we do. Oh, suck it up. Moms, this is what it is. Suck it up. If anybody show of hands over 40 in the room? Got it. Anybody over 50? This ain't the same athlete that was there 40 years ago. This ain't that same athlete was there 50 years ago. You know, we were brutal back then. You know, we would do no water break. You were soft if you got a water break. Not nowadays. Listen to your kids. Listen to your kids. Ask them questions. I know they're young right now, so this is where we plant the seeds. This is the perfect audience because this is where we plant the seeds at right here. When you talk about self-advocacy, let them know if it don't look right, taste right, or smell right, you ain't got to do it. Tell somebody, because usually what happens is, it was a case in Texas, probably the first of the year. Kids come back from Christmas break. The coach had everybody do over 400 push-ups within an hour. Said everybody to the hospital with rhabdomyolysis. Anybody know what rhabdo is? Okay, show of hands. Show of hands who don't know. All right, I like to get the crowd involved. So basically what rhabdo is, you know, those of us that worked out, we went to the gym, we overdid it. That lactic acid buildup, and you can't move the next day, and you're in pain the next day, and you're stiff, and your muscles ache. That's rhabdo. This coach sent 15 kids to the hospital because he had them do over 400 push-ups coming right out of the Christmas break. 15 kids. Now all the parents won't be mad. But I guarantee you, if you had taught your kid, one kid would have been like, Coach, not today. And one thing about kids, family, kids are followers. They fall in 3 groups. Leaders, followers, and the cool kids at the bottom, and the ones in the middle will go either way. That's period, no matter what level they are. So a lot of times, if you teach yours, man, that don't make sense. I ain't doing that. It will make a difference. Empower them now. Plant the seeds of self-advocacy now. I guarantee you will thank me later. Rest assured, as parents, anybody that ain't got college athletes as kids? I guarantee you, if you ever get to that level, your main job should be life after football or life after sports. You should be thinking about the fifth quarter. That's all it is. I used to talk to Jordan all the time. Okay, if you make it to the league, then what? A lineman don't last for 3.5 years, if that. I'm talking to the kid I was talking to the other day. I was telling y'all that got with the lines. Okay, now what? After football, what you gonna do? That's our job, to think about life after sports. Kids, when they get older, they think about 3 things. My name on the t-shirt, getting something to eat, and some sneakers. That's it, and video games. We can't buy into that concept, my kid the greatest thing. Yeah, all of us think our children are special, including me. I had no idea how special he would be in the grand scheme of things, so we don't want to cut this short when it comes to that, for our young people. Question number 5. Yes, ma'am.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
For number 4, with self-advocacy. Sometimes we tell our kids not to talk back, and to listen to the coach. And so, how do we tell them so that it doesn't come off as being disrespectful and say, oh no, I ain't doing that, or something like that, because you don't want the coach to take it wrong and kick him out because he talked back or because he challenged him.
Well, I agree. Excellent question. However, what you got to emphasize is, if it don't look right, taste right, or smell right, or they feel uncomfortable, you ain't got to do it. At the end of the day, let me say this, family. If your kid can play, rest assured, they're going to get a look wherever they go at. Whether it's D3, D1, whatever, if they can play, they're going to get a look. But at the end of the day, we're creating robots when we sit there and do whatever coach says. That's all we're doing. I did it. So again, like I said, you tell me, if coach say run through the brick wall, you run through the brick wall. Now your head land on the ground, and guess what? The game of football ain't stopped because my son died. The game of soccer didn't stop because a young man that we work with, he died on the soccer field, and I could just go on and on. The game ain't gonna stop. Rather you empower your kid, your young person to come home safe, and guess what? If it don't work over here, we can find another team. That's what we stand to do. Because I'm gonna tell you, right now, you can say you can get your 2 cents in with the coach, right? And if those of you all that had high school student athletes, man, they're gonna start walking away from you like, coach, you ain't getting no time with a high school coach. And at college, beyond the recruitment process, you may not never breathe the same air as a coach. Beyond the recruitment process, and once they get you there, they act like they don't know you. That's the reality of sports, man, regardless of what it is. So now, young people, we gotta empower our young people now at this age to think for themselves, to the best of their ability, but at least feel comfortable enough with you to say some things while you may be in an age that you can process or advocate for them. Question number 6, did I answer that one?
Yeah.
Got it. Yes, ma'am.
No, you're on number 5.
I'm on number 5. Go ahead, since you stepped up to the plate.
Always be fully transparent about your child's pre-existing medical conditions to ensure that the coaching staff is aware and can act accordingly in the event of.
Perfect. So right now, a guy, before we were coming over here, a guy I was talking to, he said, Coach, Coach, I didn't give somebody my pump, my son's asthma pump. I'm like, no, take it under the first aid team, right? Luckily, we got that set up. But a lot of times, if coaches aren't, this is the thing, a lot of times, if coaches aren't asking you these questions, you can't send your child out for failure. You can't send your child out for them to be an endangerment to themselves or put them in a dangerous situation. If you know your kid got asthma, don't send him out there without their asthma pump. If you know your child has sickle cell, don't send your child out there on a hot day, right? Again, we have to make executive decisions when it comes to our child's safety. It's 100+ degrees. Oh, you ain't going to practice today. Bottom line. Because some coaches, we got a coaches training, right? And the thing we call it the X and O's of coaches, the X and O's of student safety. And one of the main things, sometimes coaches want to win, and we got this very, very intense, in-your-face coaches training until we get to the section where the 2 coaches in Georgia got charged with murder because they was running a young lady, Imani Bell, in 2019, and she had a heat stroke and died. She was a basketball player. Now everybody like, oh, wow. See, coach can go to jail too, because see, as a parent, I've seen it. as a parent, you can't tell a parent what type of retribution they wouldn't try to get if you caused my kid's death. So, but again, we can't always put the onus in the coach's mindset. That's why we have conversations like this. That's why we have educational sessions like this. The more educated we are, like, again, the safer we'll all be, and I'll keep emphasizing that. Yep, so again, please be transparent with it, whether they're allergic to anything, snake bite, they got diabetes, sickle cell.
Bee stings.
Please put all the bee stings, ant bites, it just depends. Send those EpiPens. You know, if they got a history of heart disease or please share. Because what happens is, you know, again, you didn't tell me, and if it comes back up in the medical records, that's what it is. Right. Was that the last question?
No, we got one more. Question 6.
Somebody help me, please. Team mom in the red shirt.
Always make an informed decision about your child's safety on field sports competition.
Got it. Check this out. Common sense, family. You know, I've seen practices where coaches is cussing and fussing. Don't allow somebody to talk to your kid the way you wouldn't talk to your kid at home. I think that's the most disrespect that we can allow somebody to do to our children. I was stopped at a practice last summer to promote our clinic. So we do a clinic every year at Morgan State University. We do a Baltimore citywide clinic. This year is June 17th. You know, go to our website, the information is right there. And then I got a picture of my book as well, right there, Can My Child Play? But the point I'm making is, this guy was cussing and fussing, and I mean, y'all won't get no water, the kids get water, y'all taking too long, and parents just sitting out there like that ain't normal. Sports and coaches are supposed to do several things. Educate your kid, develop your kid, mentor your kid, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally. You ain't have nobody tear your kid down, not in your face. And you gonna sit there with it? So utilize common sense when it comes to those things. So everybody, any questions? I know y'all want to get back to see your kids. I appreciate everybody. Some good questions. But again, take this stuff with you. And what I would suggest is, if you sit and text somebody, because, you know, some people, I don't even get mad when parents don't come. Because unfortunately, hopefully don't happen to theirs. But again, share this information with